I want to write a book. I have a book idea. There's this book that I've been planning to write. My sister, my brother, just write. You cannot confuse. Hello everyone. I am back. Oh my god. It feels, I don't know how I feel doing this again, but I'm back. Like I'm back. Okay, hi everyone. How you doing? I'm doing fine. I know it's been a while. And a lot has happened. A lot has happened actually, yes. So um if you've checked the title of this video, you know that I'm going to be talking about, how to just, begin that book project and finish it. Like I did mine by the grace of God. But before I dive into that, well, a lot has happened. In the 2-3 years I've been away, if I'm very correct, I've met a man, I married him, I've had a child, okay? And I'm still loving Jesus. So yeah, if you guys want all the teas, you guys will be getting a lot from me. So encourage me, drop a comment. If you missed me on this channel, drop a comment and let me actually know that, oh, you missed me and you're glad I'm back. Okay, so now to the purpose of today's video. So yes, one of the things I want to share is how I was able to write a book. Okay, can you see it? I hope you can see it. The title is Beulah, Partnering with God for Your Supernatural Marriage Breakthrough. Yes, so I want to share with you guys, I was able to write this book. So, just in this book, I simply spoke about how, the principles that I engaged while, trusting God for my marital breakthrough, and how I partnered with God in that season. A lot of people have read it and they've been blessed, and I know that you would also be blessed, but I just want to share, how I was able to, write this book. See it again in case you haven't seen it. I hope that it is very clear on my screen. Yes, so I just want to share a few tips on how I was able to, begin this book project, write it. It's my first book, by the way, and yes, I'm so happy. I am so happy. So for someone there, especially somebody who has never written a book before, and if you hear any cry, just wait for my baby, okay? She's saying hi to you guys. So yeah, but let's focus. Okay, so I got the leading to write this book last year, 2025, right? And one of the first things I did, which I'm sharing now, is accountability. Immediately I knew that I wanted to document this and make it into a book. I sent a message to my best friend. I told her, oh, I want to write a book. Of course, I told my husband. I told, some of my other sister friends. I just, told them to, like, so that I'll be serious and they can keep asking me in case I just want to change my mind in between. Now, accountability is very important. Accountability actually helps you to see through. You have people who are reminding you, asking you. In fact, I told my friend, you're going to be my project manager, please stay on me on this case. Ensure I write this book, and it was really, very helpful. In fact, along the line, while I started writing the book, I remember I opened the book Google Doc. I shared the link with, my friend that, oh, this is the document, so that you can be updated, you can see my progress and everything like that. And I shared the Google Doc with my husband, and some of my other friends. And I remember one of them sent me, a very beautiful voice note, guys. The voice note was so good. I don't know, maybe I'm going to play the voice note somewhere, maybe just a line if I eventually decide to, in this video. I was so, encouraged. I tell you, like, I was so encouraged. And I was saying that if I ever decide that, I am not going to complete this book, or I want to abandon it by the way, this is going to, I'm going to come back to listen to this voice note so that I'm encouraged again. So please get people. It may not be the best time to tell the whole world you want to write a book, for people who like to keep their things in the private, but you should have 1 or 2 people who are your close friends or family who you can say, oh, I want to get on this project, and just, ask me, check in on me from time to time. I tell you, it goes a very long way. The second tip I'm going to be sharing with you in this video is for you to set a timeline for yourself. Okay, you want to write a book. when do you want to finish writing the book? 5 weeks, 2 months, 3 months, 1 year, whatever your timeline is, have an end in mind so that it doesn't look like a project that you are working on without an end. And there is something about when you have, something you are aiming for that helps you to keep on going, further and further. For myself, right? So I wrote this book last year, 2025. I actually told my friend I wanted to write this book in April 2025, but I eventually actually started writing it in May, if I remember very well. Yeah, May 2025 was when I began it, and between May and August 1st, which is 3 months, I actually completed the first draft August 1st. So what determined my timeline? At that time, I was in my third trimester, heavily pregnant. I was working a 9 to 5 full time. So that meant I had a lot on my plate. Like, pregnancy is a lot already, right? But yes, I wanted to finish the book before I put to bed. And at that time, I knew my EDD was, sometime in August. So I was aiming to, finish the book in July, because I didn't know, maybe my baby could come late July or August, like my EDD, says, right? But that was, the end goal I had in mind, So it is very important, to have a timeline for yourself. I cannot decide your timeline for you, but what you are aiming for, and what will work for you. So, and also because I knew that if I don't complete this book before postpartum, right, it is really going to be a bit more difficult, because I'm going to be a first time mom. I've not done this before, and postpartum is quite demanding, right? It's a new life, it's a new phase. So I knew it was going to stretch the book. Like, even if I wrote it to a point and I didn't finish, by the time I have my baby, I'm just going to abandon that book till whenever, I don't know, like till I get my groove back, till I get my reading back, till I get myself back, right? So I wanted to make sure that before I gave birth to my baby, I finished that book. And so that was why, my target was, okay, between, April, when I said I was going to begin, and August. So I started writing it actually in May, and then I finished August 1st. I remember very well. In fact, I sent a message to my friend. If I find the screenshot, I'll share in this video. And I told her that, oh, I have actually finished my book. It was early morning, August 1st. I finished the first draft of the book, So having a timeline helps. So, because if you don't have a timeline, you just keep on postponing it, other things will come. So make it a priority. And you may not be pregnant like me, right? But I tell you that there are other things that you may be busy with right now that seem like a lot already, right? But there will always be more responsibilities coming in, right? Life just has a way of, putting more things in your plate. You are the one that will determine what is priority for you. So if you think that the book you want to write is very important, make it a priority, set a timeline, and then begin writing. And some people say, oh, determine that you write so number of words every week. Honestly, that didn't work for me. That may work for you, but I'm sharing what works for me. I just knew that I wanted to write the book. The times when I have some free time, I would, write. So sometimes I could write, a lot at a stretch. At other times, I wrote very little, but I was just writing, as much as my strength could carry me, in that period. I really couldn't keep to the, write 3,000 words per week or something like that. But if that works for you, that's fine. But once you have a timeline, you can know, how much progress you are making, whether you still have so much time to go, or whether you really need to buckle up, against your timeline. It really does help. It really does help. And I highly recommend it. So please have a timeline for when you want to complete your book. The third point I'm going to be sharing that really helped me was to have a sort of structure or outline. So I don't know if there are people who just say they want to write books and they just start writing and writing. I don't know how that works. But for me, having a structure and an outline really helped. So I just drafted key points that I wanted to talk about, from my, from that experience and from, engaging with God in that season. So I knew that there were key things I wanted to highlight in my book. I just penned them down. So don't worry too much about perfection. Some things change and some things will change, but just have maybe it's like a chapter outline, some things you want to talk about, and then you can now begin to build on it, because that also was maybe confusing for some people. They are like, okay, where do I start from? And all of that. And you really don't need to follow it like, okay, I'm excited to meet this one before that one. If it's the second point that you have a lot to write in that time that the idea is dropping and everything, just start writing, about it. You can come back to build the first point later. You can go to the last point if that is where you have so much rema and everything. But don't be too, bothered about perfection. Like, okay, it can change, it will change, some things will very well change, but just create some sort of outline structure. Okay, I want to talk about this, and then and I believe also you would engage an editor, somebody who will proofread it for you, that would also help put things together. But you just having that structure and that outline really helped me to okay, this is what I'm going to write about, then I build on it, and all of that. Yeah. The next point I am going to talk about is that you should actually write. Just write. I want to write a book. I have a book idea. There's this book that I've been planning to write. My sister, my brother, just write. You cannot complete what you don't start. So even if you watch 100 YouTube videos on how to complete, a book, how to start and complete a book, if you actually do not start writing, you are not going to complete a book. There will be no book. It's all going to be in your head. And the funny thing is that if you don't pen those ideas down, if you don't begin to write them down, maybe you think the idea is too little, what am I going to talk about? The little you have will evaporate. But you also know the very amazing thing that happened and that keeps on happening again and again, that I've seen for myself, and I'm sure for many others. That little idea, once you begin to pen it down, you would realize that you begin to have inflow of ideas and more things to talk about and more things to write. So please actually just write. Bring out your pen, bring out your notepad, open your note app, open that Word document, open that Google Doc, and actually write. You are not going to complete a book that you do not start writing. So don't leave it all in your head. Actually make a decision to say, okay, I have only 5 lines that I have from this book in my head. Put it down. And don't be too rigid about it. I have a Google Doc, but there were times when maybe I was outside, I had some free time, I got some, thoughts and notes in my head. I opened my Google Keep Notes and I put it on the Google Keep, and I continue to write a little here, a little there. What happens? You have a book at the end of the day. So yeah, actually write. Just bring out your pen, bring out your computer, and begin to pen down your thoughts. The last tip that I'm going to share in this book on how to begin and complete your book project is to be aware, be conscious of the assignment that God has placed in your hand. Except if you are just trying to write a book for cruise or just out of boredom. But if you know that this is an assignment, if you take it as an assignment, if you take it as a message that God has given to you to pass on to others, you would not want time to continue to slip by. Why not doing that which God has placed in your heart to do? I want you to think about your audience. I want you to think about the readers. I want you to think about the impact that the message is going to have on your readers when it eventually gets out, and let that propel you, not just to live for yourself. There's nothing good that you will do that comes from a place of convenience. So you must learn to come out of your comfort zone and keep all of those excuses that you have aside, and actually make a decision to say, this one thing that I believe that God has asked me to do, and in this context, write a book. I am actually going to see it through. I am actually going to begin to write it. And I remember times when I was just tired. I just wanted to sleep. I'm like, I have worked all during the week. This Saturday is the time I have to rest and all of that. But then I will just remember how lives are going to be changed when they read the book. The impact it's going to have on people, the liberation it's going to bring to people, and it really just propelled me to write the book, and I just continued writing. So I was very conscious it was an assignment God gave me, and I knew that if I didn't write the book, someone else will write the book. God will get someone else to do it, and I didn't want God to also replace me. So my dear audience, be conscious that this is an assignment that God has given to you. Imagine the books you've read that have changed your lives. All the people who wrote those books in that time, they didn't write it out of convenience. It wasn't because it was the best time. So stop looking for the perfect time, because the perfect time may not come. Do you understand? Then I thought, I was pregnant, I was working, it was a lot, I'm a wife, and all of that. and I had other assignments, that I was even doing. But I can tell you that I'm so glad that I wrote that book then, because now it takes a lot for me to get a free time to be able to even do this that I am doing now. So I want to encourage you to take yourself seriously. God takes you seriously. If God gives you an idea, He considers you worthy enough to be able to, bet that idea and, run with that assignment. So please don't joke with it. It's not just a book, it's a message that will shape minds, that will transform people, that will bring liberation. Whatever, your own message is, make sure that you get it out and that the world hears about it. I'm so grateful to God for the privilege to write this book, and I'm happy that I'm eventually able to do this just to share, because I realized when I think it was when I was trying to launch my book, I didn't think I really saw a lot of resources that were helpful to me like that on YouTube. So this is also my own way of giving back. If you need an encouragement and you've been wanting to start a book project, I tell you, just start, just begin. Try to apply all of these tips. Try to apply all of the tips that I've shared in this video, and I'm very well sure that in a few months, time from now, we are going to have your book here. So my book Builder, Partnering with God for Your Supernatural Marriage Breakthrough, is still selling. If you want to get this book, you are trusting God for your marital breakthrough, I'm going to be dropping the link to order the book in the description box below, so you can use it to order your book and get it. The soft copy and the hard copy is still very much available. If you also have any question about writing a book that I may not have addressed in this video, you can drop it in the comment section. I'm going to be reading your comments and I'll come back to give an answer to that in my next video. I'm trying to be consistent on YouTube, so encourage me, drop a comment. In my next video, I am going to be talking about, planning a book launch and why it is important for you to launch your book. I'm going to be dropping all the tips there, so get ready for me. And if you have a book project that you have started already or you want to start, you can also comment. Let us cheer you on. Let us encourage you, so that when you eventually conclude that book project, you can come back to the channel and also let us know that, oh, you started this book project and you have completed it. I hope that this video has encouraged you, that whatever it is that God has placed in your mind to do, that you run with it and that you stop sitting on that idea, because there are a lot more other people who can do a better job than you. So take yourself seriously, because God takes you seriously. I'll see you in my next video. Bye for now.